one location had said we're starting at 7, another said it was starting at 7:15. So the tech has just gotten ready, so we'll get ready to go. We are live broadcasting this tonight, so it is going to be streamed on YouTube. I believe it's going to be live streamed on YouTube. So if those people who are joining us from YouTube, welcome. Those people who are in-house, welcome. How many people here have been to Rovent before? Hands up. Okay, how many people here have been snow camping before? Okay, that's a better number. All right. Well, welcome. My name is Shannon. I've been to Rovent 18 times, 19 times, maybe more than that. I lost count. This year's theme at Rovent is A Very Merry Rovent. It is a non-denominational winter celebration camp this year. So you will notice from the camp scavenger hunt that there's all sorts of very fun things to find. And we'll get a little bit more into program later. So the main details. Rovent is a camp for venturers, rovers, rangers, and link, and their advisors. Don't show up to camp without your advisors. We'll send you home. It's a winter camp. It's in Manning Park at Canby Creek. And it's this year. It's from February 10th to 13th. So it is the Friday to the Monday. And why do we do this? Because it's a lot of fun. I've been doing it for ages. There's people who have been there longer than me, and we still keep coming back year after year. So what to expect? The weather can be anything from sunny and bright and warm during the day and cold at night to cloudy to rainy to snowy to windy. You name it, we've seen it. It will happen, probably at some point over the weekend. So the site is a big open space with trees. There'll be a slide later on that shows you what it looks like with no snow, and then we'll show you where you can go. It looks a little different with snow, but you'll get the idea. The people are great to spend time with, and the activities are a lot of fun. There's program all weekend long, and we'll get into a little bit more of that later. So when you get there, you're going to come past the registration tent. The registration tent moves from year to year, so I'd like to tell you where it will be this year, but we won't know till we see the parking lot. Okay? But you will have to pass it to get in. More on registration in the next slide. Parking and trailers. Parking is on site. It's a dead lot parking. So when you get there, you get put where you're put. If you need to leave early on Monday or leave on Sunday, need to let the people who are parking know, and they will park you off-site. That way we can run a shuttle and you can pick up your vehicle and leave in the manner that you would like. If you're parked in the dead lot parking lot, you get parked where you're parked, and then you leave when the people around you leave. That can get a little frustrating. And the size of the parking lot depends on how much snow we have and how much of it gets dug out. So this year, the potential for a small parking lot is very high. Trailers, and we're talking utility trailers, not camping trailers, as the only people who have camping trailers are staff. Utility trailers are parked off-site, so they will always be in the off-site parking. Okay? Any questions about parking? Okay, registration. When you get to camp, people come up in different vehicles. Know your group's name, whether it's your group name and number. It's good to know your advisor's name. However, you need to know your advisor's name and your group name, because everything is registered under your group name, not your advisor's name. Okay? You must have a paper copy of registration at the registration tent. Okay? So either this is your group summary printout or your IMIS unit roster report. So you need to have one of those things to indicate that you are actually registered as a member of guiding or scouting to attend this event. Okay? Registration is also going to direct you to gear drop-off. There will be a gear drop-off likely somewhere near the outhouses. So you unload all your gear, and then your vehicle gets put into parking. So it's either on-site deadlock parking or choose to go off-site to off-site parking. So once your gear is dropped and your car is parked, then you can load it down to the field. So where are you going to stay when you get there? So once your gear is dropped off on the parking lot, so you're not loading it from your car straight to the field, there is a designated gear load in and load out space. So kind of keep all your group's gear together. One of the things we recommend is bringing a tarp to put down in the gear drop area. So you drop your tarp, you throw all of your gear from your vehicles onto your tarp, and then you take it in multiple trips from the parking lot over the snowbank, down the hill to your designated area or where you choose to camp. So you guys, there will be a roped off area in the middle, which will be used for program. I believe we're doing that again this year. People at the back. Are we doing a roped off space in the middle again for program? Yes. Yeah, thank you. So we will have a roped off center in the middle of camp again this year on the field, and there will be program taking place there. So some of the highly desirable camp spaces are around the edge of that field. So if you choose, one of the recommendations that I have, that my group, when I took a group, was we would take flagging tape and flag out where we figured our space would be, and then we would load our gear into that space and set up our site around that. So that's a recommendation for you. So are you going to sleep in tents, shelters, or snow caves? Tents are awesome. Dig them down to keep them out of the wind. Snow caves are a no-no. Okay? It takes too much effort to make sure they're safe, and we don't want the liability of people sleeping in snow caves in case they collapse and all of that fun jazz. So no snow caves. Tents. Pup tents, usually the dome tents, are your ideal space for sleeping in at Rovent. So dig them down to keep them out of the wind. Okay? You guys, I saw most of you have done some snow camping. So if you dig out your tent, take it down as deep as you like. We recommend going down as far as you can. Dig it down, use your metal snow shovels because the plastic ones will break on you and they are not very useful once they're broken. So metal shovels, dig out your space, sink your tent in and do that. I've got shovels, tarps, and pegs written down here. Shovels, make sure they're metal. Tarps are great to go under your tent and over your tent. It has been known to snow and rain at Rovent. It has been known to do both at the same time too, and that's very unpleasant. So making sure that you can stay waterproof. Pegs don't work in the snow very well. You can get your specialized snow pegs, but sometimes you'll hit an ice layer and even they don't work well. So one of the other things that you can use is you can use plastic bags with snow in them as a snow anchor and bury those. If you are going to use those, you need to make sure that you dig them out at the end of the weekend because we cannot leave plastic bags in the snow because we are responsible for going back up in the spring and cleaning them out, and that's pretty nasty. There are, as you can see in the picture behind me, large canvas shelters that are up there. If you're bringing a large canvas shelter, great. They're a wonderful, wonderful place to stay warm. They are heavy to pack in and out. If you are going to be using it with a wood stove, you pack in your own wood, you pack out any extras, and you pack out the ashes and coals at the end. So it's a no trace camping, it's pack in, pack out. Heaters, if you are bringing propane heaters or anything like that, please make sure you also bring a carbon monoxide detector with you. There has been cases of carbon monoxide poisoning or issues with that. Yes, Jason? Wood stoves as well. Yeah. So any sort of heating source, please make sure you've got a carbon monoxide detector with you. Any questions so far? Everybody's staring at me with a blank stare. It's about 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers from the site, and we do run a shuttle. So if and when you want, or if you're going to be parking off-site, you just say, hey guys, I want to park off-site. Parking will say, hey, we've got some people who are heading to off-site. Can we send the shuttle down? They'll kind of trail you down, show you where to park off-site, and then bring you back. And then when you want to go and retrieve your vehicle, you come up and find one of the staff. They have pretty blue hats that say Rovent on them. And you say, hey, I need a ride down to the off-site lot, and we'll probably ask why, where you're going, what you're doing, and then say, yeah, sure, we'll take you, and we'll shuttle you back down to the off-site. Yeah, so there's really no in and out privileges, hence the questions, where you're going, what you do, and why you're going. But if it's a, hey, we got to take off early, we've got a soccer match that we have to get to, we're usually, yep, sure, no problem, let me find the driver for the shuttle. It may take us a minute to find the shuttle driver, but usually it's less than 10 minutes. Are there any questions about what you should be camping in? Yeah. So one of the program activities is snow sculptures and snow archways. So we definitely encourage building and playing in the snow. Digging out caves is definitely a way of doing it. Make sure your advisors know what you're doing, where you're doing it, and when you go in and out. So if there is by some happenstance, a collapse of some sort, they know where to start looking for you. Okay? So not sleeping in them, not working in them all the time is okay, but playing in the snow is awesome. Any other questions about what you should be sleeping in, pros and cons versus different types of shelters? Yep.
Any issue with the large pop-up shelters and snow accumulation on top? The weight of that snow, has that ever been a concern?
The only years it's been a concern is when we had the slushing. It was like a snow rain that came down. It was 0 degrees like we get here. And that, if you're brushing off your shelters and keeping them clear of that, they were fine. If the wind picks up, but that doesn't happen very often, and we've closed some down on Friday night, Saturday night because of wind more often than we have for snow. Yeah. We experience that too. So yeah, the pop-up shelters are great. They're not very warm, but they will keep you out of the snow if it starts snowing, and just keep them banged off. Anything else? Okay. So this is what the site looks like with no snow. You can see the road coming in across the top, and then there's above the red line, there's a little clearing. That's an avalanche run. There hasn't been any avalanches on it whenever we've been there. And your staff will be, knock on wood, yeah. The staff is actually camped right at the bottom of that. And then you can see this, there's a gravel kind of area, kind of an oval, that will be dug out as the parking lot. And then there's actually a hill that's a little green. Unfortunately, I don't have a pointer this year, so I can't point it out to you. But you can see the little green patch at the top. That's a slope. And then there's actually more trees in this field now than there were when this picture was taken. So one of the reasons we recommend digging down is so that you can find out where the trees are so you don't sleep on them, because they'd be a little uncomfortable. So you're welcome to camp anywhere on that big field. I will let you know that kind of off on the right-hand side, where there's the little out piece, is where we designate as our snowball fight area. So if you're parking or camping over there, you're not allowed to yell at people for throwing snowballs. If you are camped in any of the other areas on the field, you will get yelled at for throwing snowballs, okay? Because we have a designated area. When nylon and other things like that get super, super cold and you huck an ice ball at them, they have a tendency to break, or people get hurt, and then the advisors get grumpy, and that is not a good thing. So stick to the designated areas for snowballs. On the red line that is closest to you, so at the bottom, there is also a slope there. That line right there. Who's got the laser pointer? Yay! So that line there is actually a really nice slope. And if you want to go sledding or tobogganing or anything else that involves sliding down a hill, that is your space to do it in. Please, please, please do not slide down the hill from the parking lot to the field. That makes me very, very grumpy. It makes some other people very, very grumpy. And then they get mad. And that is not much fun. So there will be a hill here. It is not for sliding on. This hill over here is for sliding on. There will also be a really nice bank of snow along the edge by the highway. That is also out of bounds. Don't climb up it. Don't throw snowballs off of it. Don't go sliding down it. It's out of bounds. There have been instances in the past where people haven't listened to those instructions and they got in a lot of trouble. So don't do it. So Rovent is an amazing, fun event. However, there are a couple of things you need to be cautious of. Carbon monoxide poisoning being one of them. Carbon monoxide comes from, mostly at this camp, the danger comes from heaters, be it wood stoves, propane heaters, and other things such as that. So making sure you've got your carbon monoxide detectors with you. We do come around as a staff and do periodic checks. So be expecting to see people with their carbon monoxide detector coming around and saying, oh, hey guys, you might need to open that door for a little bit, okay? Some of the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning are a headache and fatigue. So if you've got a headache and have been inside your shelter all day I go, oh, I'm really not feeling well. I think I'm just going to lie down for a minute. That is a cue to everybody around you that says, you need to go for a walk now and open up your tent door. There has been a number of groups that has happened to, and fortunately, there's been somebody still bright enough with the group to say, oh, that's a problem. We need to deal with that. If that does happen, head up to MAST and let MAST know, and they will help deal with any of those other symptoms. Dehydration. You wouldn't think that that's a big problem, but it is. When you exhale water vapor. And that water vapor will then crystallize and disappear, and you don't actually inhale it back in because the air is so cold and dry. So not only are you sweating, you're also losing a lot of water vapor through breathing. So making sure you are drinking a lot, making sure it's also non-caffeinated things that you're drinking, because caffeine is a diuretic. Caffeine can be found in coffee, tea, hot chocolate. So making sure you're drinking other non-caffeinated things. If you want hot drinks, you can use juice crystals with any hot water. You can use uncaffeinated teas, decaf coffee, all of those things, okay? You can drink pop, but it might freeze. It's also, most of your pops, any of your dark colas are caffeinated. So counterintuitive there. Unless maybe you're drinking ginger ale or something. Hypothermia. Who can tell me what the symptoms of hypothermia are? Anybody? Shivering. Okay. Shivering. Shivering is one of the first signs. What are some of the later signs? Yep. When you stop shivering. Yep. What's even further past the stop shivering? Yep. Euphoria or delirium. Yeah. So if you see somebody and they're shivering, and then they've stopped shivering, and they're not complaining about being warm, that could be problematic. Okay? If they then start to get a little giddy and are kind of off, that's an even bigger sign they need to go see MAST. Okay? So hypothermia is not something to sneeze at. Okay? So being aware of what's happening around you and the people who are around you. We come in groups so that we can look after each other. So being aware of that. I've spoken about MAST a number of times. MAST is on the parking lot. They have a huge, one of the huge big marquees, and it says MAST in big red letters across the top of it. There is always, across the front, they have a sign that says MAST, don't they? Or maybe they just have a red cross. They have a first aid sign. Okay, so I was wrong. There is somebody who is awake and in there 24 hours a day, all weekend long. So go and see them if there's a problem. They frequently get lonely. So go and say hello. Take them cookies. They like cookies. Is there any questions about hypothermia? I'm going to come back to that a little bit later when we start talking about what to wear, so keep that in mind. Frostbite. Who knows what frostbite is? Okay, I'll wait. Nobody knows what frostbite is. Yep. Loss of circulation? It has something to do with circulation. Yep. It could be when the frost is biting you, yes. However, frostbite is when you basically freeze your extremities and the blood can't get to them anymore. How many people here have seen frozen lettuce? Not a pleasant sight, okay? So if you think of your skin and your fingers as lettuce, because it's really capillaries with water in them, and after lettuce is frozen, it kind of goes gross and mushy. You do not want your fingers and toes to go gross and mushy, okay? So being careful with frostbite. Frostbite can happen if your skin is exposed to cold for too long. If you lose feeling in your fingers and toes, or they go a really nasty shade of yellow, please go and see MAST. Do not sleep with your shoes on. It is not a good idea. I will get to that story later. One of the things that can help keep you warm is warm drinks and making sure that you're going to the washroom. But I'll get to that later too. Any questions about frostbite? If you think you have frostbite, go and see MAST and they will help you warm it up appropriately. I don't think we've ever had a case of severe frostbite at Rovent. There's been some mild cases, but nothing severe. All first aid is done by MAST, so make sure that you've got your health forms or physical fitness forms or whatever they're called in scouting with you. They should be on your person in case by some happenstance there's an emergency and you need to go to MAST. You also need to let your advisors know if you are going to MAST. So MAST is probably going to want to talk to one of your advisors if you go and see them about something major or even something minor. So, what to wear? This is the exciting part. This is the part that makes me happy. So, base layers and underwear. Okay? So, one of the things I like to go on and on and on about is how much clothing you should bring to Rovent. My first rule of thumb is a set of clothing for when you get there and set up camp, set of clothing for the rest of the day on Friday, potentially another set for Friday evening, depending on when you get there. You're going to need at least probably 2 sets for Saturday and 2 sets for Sunday and something to sleep in. It may be an extra just for fun. I'm holding up 10 fingers, but really you're probably better off with about 3 to 5 full changes of clothing. So, Friday when you get there, you're going to want a full set of clothing on that is going to be something that you can pack in a Ziploc or pack in a plastic bag, put in the corner of your tent where it's going to be out of the way, or even back into your vehicle so you don't need to worry about it for the rest of the weekend. The reason I'm telling you that is because your first set of clothing when you're setting up on Friday, you're going to be, one, potentially breaking into the new snow layer, so you're going to have a higher potential of snow getting into your boots, onto your clothes, everywhere. You're going to be digging in your tents, digging in your shelters, and working up a sweat. That means that everything you're wearing is wet, okay? If you are wet, you are going to be cold, okay? If you are cold, you are not going to have any fun. So that being said, don't get wet, okay? So everything from here on in, I'm going to tell you and teach you how to not get wet so that you don't get cold, okay? Underwear, that's totally up to you. Ladies, underwire is fine, as so are sports bras. Whatever you're comfortable with. You can also go free. My sisters have done all 3. Base layers. Base layers are going to be your long underwear. They're going to be something that is tight but not totally constrictive. So what I usually use for my base layer is either a long underwear shirt. This one is Paradox. It's from Costco, so you can get long underwear from almost anywhere. Costco, Marks, Walmart, the Bay. Anywhere you want to go, you can probably find long underwear. One of your other options is there's frequently wool. So you've got a couple of different options for fibers. So fibers being synthetic fibers, so polyesters, polypropylenes, fleeces, versus natural fibers are your cottons, your wools, your silks. There's different qualities to each of the different types of fibers. Quick review of fibers. So silks and wools are probably your most warm, okay? Following that will be your synthetic fibers. You want to try and avoid the cottons as much as you can. Cotton is a wicking fabric, so it will wick the water away from you, but once it's wet and you won't get it dry, okay? And again, wet is cold, cold is miserable, okay? So that being said, you want something that's close to your skin that's going to wick, but will also try and keep you warm. So some of your synthetic fibers are better at that than your cottons, and your wools and your silks are also pretty good at that. That being said, if you're only bringing 3 sets of clothing, make sure you've changed a couple of extra undershirt layers, so your base layers, okay? You can get away with fewer outer layers if you have more base layers, okay? So if you are going to be putting money into purchasing something, purchase a good sleeping bag. That's really all I have to say on that piece. So you've got base layer, nice wool shirt. You can put a t-shirt on top of it. That would keep you nice and toasty warm at about 5 degrees outside or up to 0 if you're working. If you are sitting around doing not much of anything, you might want to add another layer. So it could be fleece. Fleece is actually one of your synthetic fibers that will dry fairly quickly, and if you do get it wet at camp, you can probably find somebody with a warming shelter who will dry it out for you, and it will dry while you're at camp. If you're looking at more of your natural fibers, this is an acrylic wool blend. It will not dry at camp, but even though it gets wet, it will still keep you warm or warmer-ish. Okay? So it depends on what you're looking for. You can then layer on top of that even more with a fleece jacket or an outer jacket, and then you can put on your Gore-Tex. So this is a wind-resistant and water-resistant layer. Or you could go with a really nice wool parka, nice fringe, very stylish. Also, will keep you very warm. It doesn't cut the wind very well, but it depends on what you're going for. Use what you have. Don't go out and purchase scores and scores and scores of things if you've already got things that are going to work for you. Make sure what you have will work for you. Okay? So that's kind of your tops. On your bottoms, again, the same layering technique and process. So you could start with your long underwear and go to either a yoga pant or a sweatpant. Sweatpants are usually made out of cotton, so be careful on that. You also can have fleece lined with a nylon outside pant. Those ones are really good. Or you can go with the snow pants. Careful with your snow pants. A lot of snow pants are water resistant, not waterproof, and if you are spending all day in the snow playing games, rolling around, they will get damp, and you will want to put something dry on when it gets dark out. And then you can toss a waterproof or a wind-resistant piece over top. You will find that the wind, even though it's not blowing very hard, will make it very, very cold. Yeah. Yep. With the fiber fill. Okay. So cheap puffy jackets. So a lot of people will go around with their city jackets on. They're really nice. They look like they're really good jackets. They're fill and they're puffy. If they don't have a really good down layer in them, and if they're just like polyester fiber fill, you'll find that their insulating factor is not as good as something with a down in it. So even a thinner down jacket is frequently better than a puffier fiber fill jacket. So does anybody here know how our clothing keeps us warm? No, it's not magic. Yeah. Yeah, pretty sure I know it's not magic. Yep. Okay, by keeping your body heat to your body. Yes. Now there's a couple of different ways it does that. Anybody got any ideas on that piece? Yep. Yep. Traps the heat inside it. So it traps the heat inside its fibers. Okay? So what you're looking for when you're looking at this is if you've got a lot of really tight layers on. So you've decided that I am so cold, I'm going to put another sweater on, and you've already got 4 sweaters on, likely another sweater is not going to be helping, because what you've just done is you've just pushed all of the air that you've warmed up out. So you're now just clothing, you're not actually that airspace. And it's that airspace that's in your clothing and surrounds you that keeps you warm. So that's the insulating factor, okay? So if you start with your... You are laughing at me. Why are you laughing at me? I don't believe you. So if you are looking at making sure that you want to stay warm, make sure you've got that insulating factor. Another sweater on top isn't going to help. Another pair of socks isn't going to help. Okay? Making sure you're changing that base layer. That base layer, that one I said, if you're only bringing multiples of something, make sure it's a base layer. That one. That is also the hardest layer to change because you have to strip everything else off to change it. That is not a pleasant experience. However, it is so worth it. It is very, very, very much worth it. Take off that wet base layer and put something else on. You won't even think it's wet. You're like, but it's not wet. I guarantee you, it's wet. You have sweated. Your body just perspires. It doesn't matter if you just sit all day and do nothing. Your body is perspiring because that's how our bodies work. Before I get into hats and make sure it's dry, are there any questions? Okay. Do we have anything from online? Not yet. Okay. Hats. Why did hats get put down in triplicate on its own line? I said triplicate. That's 3. That's because you need 3. Well, I brought 4. I brought 4. My hat. Oh, there it is. I brought 4. Okay. So you need hats for different things. The main thing that you need your hat for is not style. I'm sorry. It's not a style competition. The stylish ones are fun, but it's not a style competition. So you lose anywhere to about 25%, 25% of your body heat through your head and through your hands. I'm going to let somebody else come deal with the pretty picture that has been interrupted. So you can choose to wear a really pretty toque. You can choose to wear a hat, baseball hat with a brim. You could choose to wear a combination of them. You can choose to wear more than one at once. Wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but you could choose to do that. You could have a beautiful Santa hat. Keeps your ears warm, keeps the snow out of your eyes. It's great. It's on theme. You want to keep your head warm. If your head is warm, the rest of you will be warm. If you want to cool off because you're feeling a little bit warm, take off your gloves. You'd be amazed at how fast you'll cool off if you just take your gloves off. Or your mittens. I would recommend mittens. Okay? So make sure you have a hat. I said I have 4 hats. Change your hat as frequently as you change your socks. We'll get to that. That also makes me happy. And make sure it's dry. So when I was joking with the 10 changes of clothing, I was only being a little bit sarcastic. You want to change your clothing when you go to bed at night, and that's a complete change of clothing. Strip everything. You don't have to do it all at once. You can do it in stages, and that works better, but strip everything, okay? When you get up in the morning, you get to strip everything again, and what you wore to bed gets put away, and I'll go over what to wear to bed in a bit. Put away till the next night, and it doesn't go out of your tent. It doesn't go anywhere but in your sleeping bag. So you've got the clothes you're going to wear during the day. You're going to get about 15 minutes. 3 fingers from the top of the mountain is 15 minutes till the sun goes down. Okay? 15 minutes. At that 15-minute mark, you want to go and change because you're not going to be cold yet. You're still going to be warm from all the clothes you've had on during the day. That 15-minute mark, you want to go and strip out of everything, put on a fresh pair of everything, and then go out and continue into your evening and enjoy your evening. If you don't want to bring that full 10 changes of clothing, strip everything to your base layer, put on a brand new base layer, assess what the rest of your clothing is like, and put back on what you need to put back on. Okay? Change your socks like 4 times throughout the day. If your feet get chilly, change your socks. But I have a whole slide on that. And no jeans. So I put a pair of jeans in a bucket when I got here. My jeans are an inch into the water. It has been in there for 35 minutes. They are wet up to here. Okay, 35 minutes. They're wet to halfway up my calves. And they're only in an inch of water at the bottom. If you are walking around in your jeans in snow up to the middle of your calves or deeper, because you take a step and you're up to mid-thigh, because there's probably going to be that much snow this year, you are going to be wet. Wet equals miserable. Miserable is not much fun. Jeans are a cotton wick. So that means when the water starts in one spot, it's going to wick or lead up the rest of your leg. Jason? You could try it. Wouldn't recommend it. Not so much fun. There's fleece-lined jeans and all of those wonderful things. Just get nylon pants with fleece lining, please. It's just so much easier. It's not a fashion show. It's not, I promise you. There is a story. I'm not quite sure how true it is, but I will tell you anyways because I think it's funny. So there was a gentleman who wore his jeans all day at camp. They were caked in snow, and then they hung them up in their tent overnight, and the temperature dropped. And their jeans got so cold, when they took them up in the morning, they broke. They shattered. Not necessarily shattered into a whole bunch of pieces, but the material broke. I'm not sure I necessarily believe that, but I will believe that they froze into a really nice big ice cube, and they probably couldn't put them on again because you can't really put on ice cube jeans. That doesn't work well. Same thing for ice cube boots, but we'll get to that. So don't bring jeans. It's not much fun. So no jeans, no running shoes. Running shoes are just going to turn things into an ice rink, and you won't be able to go anywhere, and that's not fun, and your feet will get cold. It's not soccer. No. Those are cleats anyways. They might help, but no. No plastic rain gear. That nice, bright plastic rain gear, because you're going to want your better, warmer gear for at night when the sun goes down. We can have temperatures at about 0, -5 during the day, and it will drop to -20 at night. So that's a 15-degree temperature change. You're going to feel it. So making sure that you've got materials that you're saving your better things for the evening. At least that's my theory. Everything I'm telling you is a lot of general knowledge, but you also have to try and figure out what works for you. Okay? It may take you a couple of years to figure out what works for you. So try different things. Talk to your friends. Find out what works for them. Talk to some of the old timers and find out what's worked for them. They'll tell you something and you'll be like, really? And then you try it and you're like, no, doesn't quite work for me, but maybe if I twist it this way, it will. So I do have fingered gloves. I have fairly long fingers, so I find that the edge of my pinky finger doesn't ever get covered by the mitten part. So making sure you're working with them. You can see I've used these for digging lots. The thumb is worn out. There's no thumb left in that glove. So we've gone over the pros and cons of mittens. Socks. More socks and more socks. Socks are the best. I get cold feet, in case you couldn't tell. Change your socks every 3 hours. That is my recommendation. If you're playing on the field, change your socks every 3 hours. And people are like, really? Every 3 hours? That seems excessive. Yes, it might be for you. For me, it works. I'll be sitting and working, and somebody will say, and I'll say, I've got cold feet. And they're like, when's the last time you changed your socks? I was like, I don't remember. And they're like, go change your socks. And I'll be like, okay. So, best type of socks. My favorites. Where'd they go? Oh, here they are. My Smart Wool snowboard socks are my favorite. I have 4 pairs because I love them so much. However, that's $100 worth of socks. You probably don't want to spend $100 worth of socks in 1 year. It's not worth it. You can go to Army and Navy and get a package of these for like $5, maybe 10. It's been a while since I've been. These are wool socks. They work just as well. If you've got problems with wool, I might recommend putting a cotton sock inside them and then wearing the wool socks and then changing your cotton socks. Okay? Again with the fibers. So wool, great. Even if it's wet, it will still keep you warm. Cotton with it's wet, not so much with the keeping you warm. Cotton socks are cheap and easy to get, and like they become like the disposable gloves. You just take them off, put them in a bag, and get a new pair. Doesn't take much. So how you work your socks and how you work with your socks and your boots is really up to you. Okay? You need to find what works for you and your feet. I've found that what really works for me is a good pair of smart wool socks and my good Sorel boots. And I can go all day as long as I change my socks with some regularity. I will, at this point, go through about 3 to 4 pairs of socks a day. So that's about a dozen pairs of socks over the weekend. However, I have people who know me who are sitting there laughing at me. However, find out what works for you. I know that I can wear a thick pair of socks in my boots and not have a problem. I know other people who like to wear a thin pair of nylon socks and they're good boots and they don't have a problem. I know other people who are like, I have to wear 3 pairs of socks and my boots and I don't have a problem. If you are going to be wearing more than 1 pair of socks, they should probably teach you how to put on your socks. This is a skill that you need to learn. Okay. When you put on your socks, if you're going to be wearing more than 1 pair, I have a pair of small socks somewhere. Honest, they're white. Did they fall on the floor? Oh well, I'll use the good socks. When you put on 2 pairs of socks, you have to scrunch them up and put your foot on, tug them onto your foot, pretend my hand is a foot, take the toes and tug the toes so they're not constricted around your foot. You're then going to take your second pair of socks, after you've tugged the toes of the first one, and put it on your foot and roll it up, take the toes and tug them again. Because if you don't tug the toes, what happens is that first pair of socks is on tight. That second pair of socks is now being pushed even further and tighter onto your toes. And if you don't tuck them again and you're pushing them into the boot, then you're tucking and tightening. And my fingers can barely move in this sock. That means if it was on my foot, my toes couldn't move. If my toes can't move, that means the blood's not circulating to them properly and my toes are going to get cold. That is not much fun. Cold feet is no fun. So making sure you tug the toes on your socks before you put them in a second pair of socks and before you put them in a boot. I would not recommend having more than 2 pairs of socks on your feet because any more than 2 pairs of socks is going to constrict your toes and they're going to be tight in your boots and you're going to reduce that blood flow to your toes and your feet and your feet are going to be cold. So basically you've just eliminated any extra warmth that that extra pair of socks is going to give you. So it's more detrimental to wear more pairs of socks than it is to wear fewer pairs of socks. So you're better off getting good socks than you are having lots of socks. Shoes versus boots. Shoes are good if you're running in the city. Boots are better if you're playing in the snow. That being said, if you've got good like short boots, they're good too. Make sure you've got gaiters because the snow could potentially go up and over your shoes and then into your shoes and you end up with wet feet. Not much fun. Gaiters and crampons are good for making sure your feet are dry and that you can traverse the ice because the pads do get a little icy by the end of the weekend. Plastic bags. Why or why not? Answer my questions. Why or why not with plastic bags for your feet? Okay, so we've got why plastic bags? So plastic bags, I've got people saying wet feet, keep your feet dry, keep your feet wet. So yes, if by some happenstance there happens to be a puddle in the middle of the parking lot and you step in it and your foot gets all wet and you only have the 1 pair of boots, then you don't really want to put your feet into that 1 pair of boots. It's all wet, so you're going to want to put a plastic bag in them. There could be other reasons why you'd need a plastic bag to put your foot in to keep your feet dry. However, like the plastic raincoats, if you are putting your foot into plastic, plastic is not going to breathe, and so you will likely get condensation on that bag, which is then going to make your foot and your socks wet. So you're going to need to change your socks more, so that means you're going to need to have more socks. So it's okay to wear plastic bags on your feet, but you're going to want to have lots of socks so you can change them more frequently. Are there any questions at this point about what you should be wearing at camp? I think I've got one more slide on clothing. We understand insulation, we understand, okay. Bedtime, what to wear. A whole new set of clothing. Not to be worn at any other time. Keep them dry. And have an extra hat. This is my sleeping in hat. It's very pretty to me. It's got all sorts of fun things like here that you can put your chapstick in and then put it on your head so you know where it is when you wake up in the middle of your night and your lips are like killing you because they're all chapped. You know where your chapstick is. That's my story on that one. One of the things I do is I keep my hat if it's going to be a really cold year. I don't know what the weather's going to be like. I'll put my hat on after I've changed out of everything and put on all new clothes. I like to wear my fleece pajamas with a fleece jacket, tank top. I don't like socks in bed. That's just me, so I don't wear socks to bed because I find it constricts the blood to my feet, and my feet get colder if I wear socks to bed. So totally up to you if you wear socks to bed or not. Hat goes on, comes down to this point on my nose. Scarf, if it's a cold year, I am very stylish with my scarf, just so you know. Over top of the hat and around your neck. Comes up over your chin. So the only thing that's left is about this much of your mouth. And that keeps me toasty. So that's how I sleep. But complete set of clothing. I don't think I can emphasize that enough. A complete set of clothing for when you are sleeping that has never been worn outside and won't be worn outside. Doesn't really matter what it is, no one's going to see it. The only exception I will make to that is if it's in the middle of the night and you have to run to the washroom and go pee. It's the only thing you're allowed to do. And make sure you don't trip and fall into a snowbank, because then I'm going to tell you you have to change your clothes. It's not much fun. What to sleep on or what to sleep in. So, a foamy or some sort of closed cell foam or insulated sleeping mat. No air mattresses. Why will I say no air mattresses? Yep. Yeah. So that air mattress is a pocket of air that has to be heated. The only heat source is you. So all your energy is going to heat that air mattress, the air in the air mattress underneath. So that can be the ground sheet, your tent, and an inside ground sheet would be 3 layers, or the foamy and your sleeping bag and a liner could be 3 layers and one over you. So there's all sorts of different things. Even multiple foamies is a good way of doing it. Any other questions about sleeping? I kind of feel like I'm racing through it. Any questions? Yes? Whatever you're comfortable with. It depends on how cold it's going to be. I've been there where it's been like -2, and I've been there when it's been like -30. So my sleeping bag was rated to -15 years ago. I still take it. It still works wonderfully. If I know it's going to be a cold year, or even if I suspect it might be a cold year, I usually have a layer of closed cell foam on the bottom of my tent. I have my foamy. I have a fleece liner for my sleeping bag, which I actually put over top of my foamy and not in my sleeping bag. I have my sleeping bag. I have a silk liner for my sleeping bag, and then I'll usually take a wool blanket and a fleece blanket for over top of me. I like to be really, really hot when I sleep. So that's me personally. If you don't like to be really, really hot when you sleep, you can leave like half of that out and still be fine. I know there are other people who sleep with a sleeping bag and a silk liner, and that's it. So it really needs to be up to you how you sleep and how your comfort levels are. Again, and how many people are in your tent. I sleep in a 3-man tent with 3 people. We're really, really close. And I can tell you, I know exactly when each of those people rolls over because I get a strip of cold air down the side of me because they've moved. So the more people you put in a tent, the warmer it will be. Okay? And we'll usually pack our gear around the outsides and sleep it really close together. Granted, I'm sleeping with my mother and my sister, so that's a familiar piece there too. I'm not sleeping with other people from my troop. But there is the factor of if you're really close to the person beside you, you are actually sharing body heat as well, although there can be like 6 different layers of fabric between you and them. Okay? One of the ways I have camped at Rovent is when I was a ranger, we used to take a huge tarp and put up a structure, and then we'd sleep like 30 of us in this tarp structure. I would not recommend doing it that way. That was really cold. I would recommend doing it with shelters and tents. Having done both, that's my advice. Any other questions while we're here? Okay. Weird things you should have. People look at this list and they go, really? I'm like, yeah. Sunglasses. More often than not, it's going to be sunny, and even if it's a light overcast, it's really reflective. Snow is very reflective. Sunscreen. I am going to recommend that you find a powder or a cream of some sort and not a liquid because the liquid's going to freeze. If you are going to bring a liquid sunscreen, make sure it's stored in a bottle upside down so that you can use it like a popsicle. Just kind of smear it on. You're going to want to put your sunscreen on some very intriguing places. You're going to want to put your sunscreen under your chin, under your nose, under your eyebrows, and on your ears. You can do the rest of your face too, but the rest of you is probably going to be covered. But when you go home on Monday, if you haven't put the sunscreen under your chin, under your nose, under your eyebrows, and on your ears, you will be cursing yourself because it's not going to be much fun. So yes, and if you store your liquid sunscreen upside down, you can spin the cap off and use it as like a cream base and just kind of rub it on and then rub it in. It's like a frozen popsicle. It works quite well. Lip gloss, lip balm. Balms are better than glosses because they will have some protective coating in them. Try and make sure you get the ones with the SPF. They work very nicely. Keep them in your pockets so they don't freeze. Kleenex, your nose will run all weekend, so it's great to have even just like a unit box of Kleenex that's sitting on your kitchen table. Moisturizer, regular hand moisturizer because your hands are going to get dry. You'll also need hand sanitizer and stuff like that because there are some in the washrooms, but they run out relatively frequently. Face moisturizer is always a good thing. Guys, if you are like really feeling chapped, go and find some girls and ask. They'd be more than willing to share with you. It's a great way to make friends. Hand cream will work in a pinch. Any other weird things that I've missed that, or you're questioning why I've put them on this list? Okay. Okay. This is one of my favorite slides. What to do if I'm cold? What do you think you need to do if you're cold? Yep. Change your socks. Yes, that's on my list. Yes. Change your base layers. Yes. That goes with change your socks. Anything else? Yes.
Did someone say change your socks?
They have. Excellent. What else? Yep. Okay. Yep, that's on the list. Not on one of my main 5s, but yep, it's on the list. No, it's not on my list. See, what's first thing? Put on a hat. First thing you need to do is put on a hat. Okay? Remember that 25% of your heat is lost through your head. Put on a hat. It's very warm up here in case you're wondering. Go pee. What does she mean go pee? Go pee. I'd be tempted to disagree with that statement. You need to go pee because your body needs to keep your urine at body temperature. It takes a lot of energy to keep that much liquid at body temperature. Okay? If you go pee, you don't need to keep it warm anymore. And you can actually feel the heat radiating from your bladder out into the rest of your body. You are looking at me like that lady is nuts. It is so true. It is so very, very true. Okay? You come and find me. I'll be on the parking lot in the big cook shelter all weekend. And when you've gone pee and you can feel the heat going from your bladder out to the rest of your body, you're going to say, oh, that lady was so right. I've had more than one person come up to me and say, I was laughing at you during that presentation, but you were so right. I was like, that is true. Go for a walk. If you're cold, go for a walk. Not necessarily a run. Go for a walk. Why are you going for a walk? Yep. Yep, to move your muscles and body to get your blood flowing, because blood flow is what keeps you warm. So yes. 4, change your socks. So it's there. It's not number 1, but it's there. And have something to eat. Why? Why would you want to have something to eat if you're cold? Isn't that just going to make your tummy upset? Yep. To give your body fuel to warm you up. Your body gets its energy or its heat from what you eat. Pop, chips, Smarties, chocolates are all an instant energy, but they're not going to get you warm and they're not going to keep you warm. Proteins are what's going to get you warm and keep you warm. So whether it's cheese, whether it's pepperoni sticks, whether it's a nut mix of some sort, have a protein to keep you warm. Okay, we're going to get into food in a little bit. So if you've tried those first 5 things and you still can't get warm, go and find a shelter, go and find a fire, go and find somewhere to hang out for a bit. If after a while you still can't get warm, go and see MAST. MAST has got some other methods that they can use and some other avenues that you probably won't have access to that they can help you get warm. If you are going into women of warming shelters or into a friend's shelter and they've got a fire going, take off the top 2 layers, please, so that once you've warmed up, you can then put those back on when you go outside. If you leave them on while you're in that heat, your body's going to acclimatize to that temperature with all those layers, and as soon as you go back outside, your body's going to be like, it's cold out here. Why am I out here? And you have nothing to put on top of what you've got to keep you warm. So, what should I eat? What should you eat? You can. I'm not saying don't. There'll be candy there. Anybody else? Well, it's pretty obvious. It's the first line. It says balanced diet. So yes, a balanced diet for camp is imperative. However, if you look at that slide, there's an egg that's frozen. They don't cook well frozen. Just saying. So menu planning is a bit problematic when you're going to Rovent. Fresh fruits and vegetables don't do well, so don't plan a salad. It's not going to go over well. Okay? You're okay if you're choosing to take like frozen peas, frozen corn, frozen fruit. Those things will all stay frozen. So they're a pretty good choice. Canned things are going to freeze, so not necessarily a good choice, but an okay one. Cooking methods, again, up to you. I think we've got another slide going on to that in a minute. Lots of hot liquids and lots of cold liquids. So, rule of thumb, or the general guideline, is 4 liters of water per person per day. That is for eating, drinking, and cleaning. So for dishes, for all of those things. So 4 liters of water per person per day. How you bring that is up to you. How you store that, again, can be tricky. So if you're bringing the big 5-gallon jugs, bury them in the snow. If you bury them upside down, they're less likely to have the spouts freeze. You will likely still get a crust of ice on them. If you can break through it, you can get to the liquid water in the middle. One of the things that I recommend doing is keeping some water in your pot at night so that when you get up in the morning and everything is frozen, all you have to do is light your stove and you will have hot water because the ice in your stove, in your bucket, in your pot will melt. You can then use that water to either melt a hole in your water bucket, like through the ice in the spout so you can get out more liquid water, or you can use it to have breakfast or things like that and wait for your water jugs to thaw a little bit in the sunshine. They're not going to thaw all the way. It's going to be below freezing. But there will be opportunities for that. The other option is you can bring a chopstick with you and try and bash down through that spout and break out some of the ice so you can maybe potentially get to the water on the inside. Easiest method, make sure there's a pot of liquid water on your stove that's going to freeze to an ice that you can melt. Okay? Snacks. You're better off eating small amounts all day long than you are at eating 3 big meals. Because what happens is if you eat those huge big meals, all your blood and energy go to digesting that food, and it goes away from your extremities. So one, you'll be cold. If you are already really cold and you eat a whole lot of things right away, you are more than likely going to be sick because your body is going to say, I can't deal, get rid of it. And then you have to deal with puking on the field, and that is not a pleasant experience. Done that one too, not much fun. So small amounts over the course of the day is a better thing than big meals. That being said, it is a really good idea to plan those larger meals. You can choose to do boil in a bag, you can choose to plan and prep, you can cook on whatever you want. But make sure you've got those high protein snack foods for throughout the day. Snacks are great. Snacks can also be some of those sugary things because they'll give you a pretty quick energy boost. But again, the crash is going to be heavy. Eat before bed. Eating before bed gives your body an opportunity to have something to keep it warm all night long. One of the things that I've done in the past is have bananas before bed because frozen bananas are kind of like a popsicle and they actually go pretty well. You can bring some melted chocolate and melt it in a double boiler kind of on your stove, and then you can have like chocolate and bananas. Quite nice, or chocolate and fruit. And how you should cook it is however you like. If you're going to be doing briquettes and things like that, remember you need to be able to pack out the used briquettes at the end, so make sure you've got a barrel or something to keep those used briquettes in. Is there any question on food? Yes? Yep. This one? Okay. No problem. While we're waiting, any questions on food? Yes? There is no water up there. You got to bring it all in. I would not recommend melting the snow. There's like other groups that use that space, and by the time you get to like midday on Saturday, it's nowhere clean stuff to find, and there's questionable things in it. And bring your own water. Bring your own water. Again, it's a pack it in, pack it out. Any other questions? Okay. There we go. Got any questions? Ask the hardworking staff. How do you get to camp? Well, previously I would have said you had to find somebody to give you a ride, but I believe there is a shuttle coming up to camp this year, so you need to check out the website to get more details on that. Additionally, if you have registration with you here tonight, I'm to tell you at any point during this presentation, you can go up to the back and hand it in. However, I appear to be at the end of my presentation, so you can go and take it up to the top, and there'll be registration people at the top. Oh, then you get to deal with the camp chief, and he's going to send you and your whole group home. Not a whole lot of fun. Oh, that's one of the things. Oh, there's also more hardworking stuff. One of the things I didn't talk about. Probably should. Alcohol at camp. Alcohol is forbidden. It's a no-no. A couple of reasons. One, this is a scouting event and a guiding event, and there shouldn't be any alcohol there to start with. Secondly, who knows what happens when you actually drink alcohol? And I'm not talking about like the I get happy and I get weird. I'm talking about physiologically. So what actually happens to your body when you drink alcohol? Okay, it's not necessarily your blood thins. What happens is the capillaries, so the vessels that carry the blood out to your skin expand, and you actually get more blood closer to the top of your skin. So you think you're warm. Because your skin is getting more blood, it feels like it's warmer. So you'll probably take off a couple of layers. But you're also losing heat rather rapidly, and you're not feeling it. So your body temperature actually goes down a lot faster, and it can be very, very dangerous. Because one, you're impaired because you can't think properly because of the effects of the alcohol, as well as you are going to freeze a lot faster. So be very aware that alcohol is forbidden, and we have some pretty strict policies if you're found drinking. It has not been unheard of that we will find your advisor, pack up your troop, and send you all home. And call your parents, who will have to come and get you. So, not a fun experience for anyone. So just don't do it. There's all sorts of other fun to be had, like dances. I'm assuming there's going to be a request list for the girls out at somewhere, because our DJ believes that if the girls request it, the girls will be on the dance floor, and if the dance floor's got girls on it, there will be boys on the dance floor. So it's science. You'd have to take that one up with the DJ. I'm sorry, I don't curry favors.
Is there any scouts here tonight?
Any scouts? Hey, that's great. Last year we had all scouts. Okay, so where are the venturers in the room this evening? Okay, where are the rovers in the room this evening? Okay, where are the rangers in the room this evening? Nice. Where are the link members in the room this evening? Okay. All right. Did I miss anything?
I was going to say that for all you venture companies and the equivalent Girl Guide sessions, third-year scouts are welcome at Rovent because it's become a routine event now. So we get scouts, more scouts coming up to Rovent, as well as the Girl Guide sessions.
I believe for Girl Guides, that's actually written in it, they need to be rangers and above. Those are, I believe, provincial rules. So look into that piece. It also has, yeah. So, and I think there's also an age piece involved too. So, and there are safe guide forms on the website. So if you want to have a quicker version through your safe guide forms, there are safe guide, almost completed safe guide forms on the website that you can take a look at. Okay. Anything else? Any questions? Yep.
You ever had an issue with the larger propane tanks freezing up?
Nope.
Yes.
Yep. Oh.
The whole thing won't freeze, but as it gets colder, you will not get as much out of your propane tank. Solution then, or no? Keep it in a warmer place, grab it. Nothing much really. Of our 100-pound propane tanks, what do we usually get, like 70% of it?
Yeah, we normally get about 80% of those. You're talking like 100-pounder?
No, like a 20 or a 30.
Like a 20? Are you using it to run a heater?
One will be.
Okay, then I would keep it in the place that you're heating as opposed to outside and shake it up every so often.
If you are using some of like the smaller green propane tanks, one of the practices that I have seen and heard used successfully is if you actually, not necessarily the safest method, I will preface this with, is if you take it and actually, if you've got a short person, tuck it in the bottom of their sleeping bag so it doesn't freeze overnight, and then you'll have something to use in the morning as well. Okay? I didn't talk about this, and I probably should have. Boots. We glossed over it a little bit. I talked about my Sorel boots, which are these ones. They have a really nice liner that comes in and out of them. You can choose to take your liners out and either keep them somewhere in your tent overnight so they don't freeze, or leave them in your boots. I've done both methods. At this point in time, I usually leave my liners in my boots, and then I just try and force my feet into them in the morning, and you can usually crack the ice off of them fairly easily because they are a nylon outside. If you are going to be wearing leather boots, please make sure you've got gaiters with them to start with. Second of all, make sure you've given yourself about 20 minutes in the morning so that you can work the ice off of them and finally force your feet into them so that you can get somewhere and start working them and moving them so you can finally make them comfortable again. You can see my opinion on leather boots at camp. So they will freeze overnight. No ands, if, buts, or maybes. Your shoes are going to freeze overnight. So make sure you either have a second pair to put on in the morning so that you can work them out and they'll thaw out marginally throughout the day, as long as they're not too wet. Have two pairs, like a morning pair and a night pair. Have a pair that you can or force your feet into so they're a little bit looser. They're just going to freeze. They're not going to freeze solid like a block of ice, but they will be difficult to get your feet into in the morning. Make sure that they're accessible to the door so in the morning when you have to get up and run to the washroom that you can get your feet into them. That being said, make sure you leave enough time in the morning to get up and get to the washroom so that you can get your boots on and like climb out of your snowbank. Anything else? Yes?
How fun is it to chip your contact lenses out of ice and then put them in?
I don't know. I don't wear contact lenses. How fun is it to chip your contact lenses out of ice?
It's about 3 out of 10 on the fun scale.
3 out of 10 on the fun scale. So that being said, contacts. Thank you for reminding me on that piece. If you have to wear contacts, try and bring your glasses. If you're insisting on wearing your contacts, contact solution stays in a Ziploc bag on the inside of your jacket with you all day so it doesn't freeze. Also, contacts, if you want to keep them warm overnight, again, put them in your contact case, put them into a sealed Ziploc bag. Because liquid, remember, water equals wet, wet equals miserable. Same thing goes for your sleeping bag. So don't put your water bottle in your sleeping bag. I had a friend who did that once. He was like, I was so hot, so I brought my frozen water bottle into bed with me, and then I froze all night. I was like, dude, what were you thinking? So that is a story that I pass along and say, don't do that. It's not very bright. But again, contact solution, contacts, keep them in a Ziploc bag, and you can toss them in your sleeping bag with you. I say in the Ziploc bag so that you don't get contact solution all through your sleeping bag, making your sleeping bag wet. Anything else you want to keep warm needs to be close to you, because body heat is what's going to keep it warm. If they happen to be damp gloves that you want to keep warm, please just put them somewhere that's not next to you and get a fresh pair. We had a group from Inuvik come down probably about a decade ago, and Inuvik is in the Northwest Territories, and in the Northwest Territories, if you want to keep something warm or get something warm, you put them on the inside of your jacket and you zip your jacket up to keep them warm. They did not factor in that snow in BC on the south coast is a lot wetter than the snow in Inuvik. And so they got in their very nice winter gloves, very, very snowy and very, very wet, and they're like, oh, my gloves are cold. So they put them inside their jacket and zipped their jacket up, and they did not get very warm, and the person did not get very warm. Unfortunately, the advisor who was with them, who was living up in Inuvik at the time, was from down here, realized what the problem was, and got them out of their damp clothes, put on new clothes, got them new gloves, and they were fine. But don't put the wet gloves inside your jackets, please. It's not a wise choice. Anything else? Don't wear your boots to bed. We might have to cut them off. That's another good story, but I'll leave that for another day. Questions? Comments? Ideas? Well, okay, so talking about the boots that freeze at night, a number of years ago now, probably about 15, there was a friend of mine had one of his young venturers who was scared of having his boots freeze overnight, so decided he would wear his boots to bed. So he climbed into his sleeping bag that night and wore his boots to bed, and then he woke up and he was complaining that his feet were really, really cold, that he couldn't get his boots off, and he'd basically almost frozen his feet into his boots. So that had a trip to mast, likely a little bit of mild frostbite to his toes, and a very difficult time getting his boots off to get his feet warmed up. It was almost a trip to Hope to have his boots cut off his feet. So don't wear your boots to bed, please. Trips to Hope to get your boots cut off is not a good thing, okay? Anybody else? Program. There's going to be all sorts of very fun program at camp. There will be a board up at opening with a list of activities that were going to happen that day. There will be all sorts of fun theme-related things. So we will see you at camp. Have a very Merry Rovent to all. Did I miss anything?